Good evening, everyone. My name's Christopher Lozon. I'm the chair of the Town of Barnstable's Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee. Today is September 8th, 2025. This is our regular meeting. Before we get started, I will say, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any member of the public is welcome to record the meeting as long as they make themselves known. Is any member of the public recording this meeting? Seeing none, we will move on to the roll call. If you can do that, Jeremy.
Certainly. Lillian Wu,
Here.
Tom Miskeen,
Present.
Jim Sproul,
Present.
Chris King,
Here.
Chris Lauzon,
Present.
Hector Gunther is not present, but hopefully soon. And Frank, I lost the, what's Frank? Sorry, what's your last name?
Ward.
Frank Ward. Frank Ward.
I'm here.
Apologies. And
No
I am
problem.
Jeremy Shea, and I am here.
Excellent. So we have a quorum. We also have Councilor Lucky and Communications Director Poyant in attendance. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of our minutes from the last meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Jeremy, can you call the roll?
Certainly.
Or is there any discussion? I'm sorry.
Yes, there are.
Discussion. There's one thing that needs
There
to
is one-
change that
is
I
there
noticed. The
one?
date at the top of the first page says August 11th. It should be August 25th.
I also have a comment on the minutes on page 2, Teresa. In the looking ahead, you have a question mark there for the data. It was actually looking ahead. We had suggested that the sections of the looking ahead from the 2026 reports from CIP and OB be referred to in compiling the looking ahead.
Thank you. I have that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. Now you can do the roll call, Jeremy.
All right. Tom Keene,
Approve.
Chris King,
Approved.
Chris Lauzon,
Yes.
Jim Sproul,
Yes.
Frank Ward,
Yes.
Lillian Wu.
Yep.
And I am Jeremy Shea, and I say yes.
All right, that passes. Now on to our first topic. As I said, we have Communications Director for the town, Lynn Poyant, in attendance. We had discussed at our last meeting some ways that the committee could maybe get some more exposure in the town with our reports. So she's here to talk to us about that. Lynn, I don't know if you want to start or if you want to just field questions from the committee.
I think we've done this a couple of times before, so I think that if I can field questions, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Yeah, we certainly, I mean, we've tried over the past few years to get some more exposure. I believe you put our reports, links to them in the e-news. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
we've put it out a number of ways. It's on the town's website. We share it through e-news. E-news has a dedicated web page. We also, Gareth knows the pickup ability of the public information booth down in town hall. And especially when there's heavy meeting nights, he actually put the very last that you have out following a Great Streets meeting because there was absolutely nothing left after that. I know that there was a question as to whether or not we could get from Google Analytics the number of hits on the PDF, and you have to pay for those kind of Google Analytics, so we don't have those. And we're looking to get what the number of hits on the page are, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get that before I left work today. The town app, we had done a push notification when things were available previously, and the town app went up almost 2,000 users between June and September 3rd of this year. So we're at over 11,000 users of the app, which has a lot of things. I'm just trying to think of, I'm going off of some of the other questions that have been asked in the past. There was a question as to whether or not we could do an interview with committee members on our government access television station, and we can do that. We have a program called Town Talk. It wouldn't lend itself to the podcast, especially we're in the 7th season of our podcast, and this next round is Barnstable 101. So we're going back to the departments and getting the information from the departments that are the most frequently asked questions of residents in the area. But we do have another program called Town Talk that's 15 minutes to a half an hour. Usually when we have a committee member present, we also have a staff member present, just in case there are questions that are asked that the staff would be more likely to be able to answer. And we're more than happy to make that happen for you folks. Sarah Bill Fletcher, our television station manager, would probably be the interviewer for that, or Kathy Flynn, our digital content manager. But we could make that happen, as quickly, or as, if you want to wait until the next edition of your publication is out, we can do that as well. When we do things with e-news, and when you have your publication come out, we also share it through our social channels. So we have Facebook and Instagram, which are the ones with the most presence, and then we are still on X, although we're debating getting off of that. X is formerly Twitter. And one of the things that we have to do is anything that we do with social media, we have to ensure that it is archivable, because all of our communications are public records. And so we have a subscription with a company called Archive Social. That's so we can't delete things, we can't hide things, because they are in fact public records. But we have shared information from there. One of the things that I was asked last time is whether or not a QR code at various public locations that people could scan, if whether or not that would be valuable. And I don't know if you know that QR codes have been hijacked by some bad players these days, and so we don't use them for everything, and I would probably suggest that might not be a good use for you folks. And then you had asked previously, presenting at town council under communications, and you guys have a quicker line to town council than I do. So, you've had a great presence at town council meetings. Councilor Lucky could speak to that, but I know that the town council president and members of the council value your input for both the operating budget, for the capital improvements plan, and also your input for the CWMP. So I would anticipate that they would continue to utilize your services for that.
Great. I appreciate that. I think, an interview on Town Talk certainly would be beneficial. Fiscal report. If we can in the pipeline, that would be good.
Yeah, and we would just ask that you let us know who it is that would be considered for the interview, and then also if you can provide some questions, that way there we're asking you some softballs as far, and then we would have our own questions as well.
Okay.
Lynn,
Yeah, we certainly can discuss that.
Yeah, Lynn, welcome, and thank you so much for coming. I remember Mark Milne on Town Talk. He did the basic finance 101, and it was just fabulous.
Mark's podcast items, his Town Talk items, they have got the highest viewership, except for beach stickers. Beach stickers is the only thing that paces Mark's items.
At least
I mean,
people
Mark,
know where their
I mean,
priorities are.
we're so lucky to have him because he explains things that a layman can understand. And some things can be very, highly technical or in finance jargon, and he explains it so that the average person can understand it, which is terrific.
Lynn, one of the questions that came up is whether our reports could be sent out directly to folks rather than as a link on e-news.
I can check. Technically, we're only supposed to use, because people have to opt in for e-news. But let me see if whether or not there's a way for us to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Lynn, I have a question for you because you have your finger on the pulse of what the residents are most interested in. What are the highest interest issues right now?
It depends on what affects them and their pocketbook. Quite honestly, we frequently hear from people that they didn't know about things, and it's because everybody's, basically living their own lives. I will say that I think that the town council election is going to be a hot button issue for people, because until last week's town council meeting, I don't think that people were aware that some of our councils were not rerunning. And that's drawn some consideration. The Great Streets, the what they call the 6 Points area, which they're talking about the roundabout for, which is at actually 75% design. That has been gathering a lot of questions and interest from the general public. Housing is always a hot topic in the town. We have a lot of people who can't afford to live in the town. They're commuting actually from over the bridge. 30% of the workforce on the Cape commutes from over the bridge. So those are some of the hot topics that we're hearing about.
Thank you. I was really impressed with the Great Roads public meeting. I mean, it was standing room only.
It was standing room only, and there are certain meetings that I will make sure that I'm in the room, because what you get when you're in the room is very different when you're watching it on TV or via a video on demand. Yeah.
Lynn, can I follow up on that question, in that I think that idea of hot button issues, like, I think we do a good job of putting the report out, but I wonder how we can synthesize it down into, like, here's a post on this topic that we have talked about so much on this committee, and it's just a post about that, instead of like, hey, there's a report that's bigger. Because I think a lot of people, they want to digest it in maybe a quicker way.
They do. Sound bites are key. And
Yeah.
Jeremy, you're of the younger generation, and things have definitely changed with how people are consuming media. Even for our Facebook and everything else, you're talking about condensing something to a 30-second video as opposed to anything longer than that. I think that that's a terrific idea. And I think that if you were to write up what the topic is, give us those sound bites. Kathy Flynn can make it look pretty and something that people will click on, and we can get that out. So, if you want to have something once a month, or, whatever frequency you think that you want to do, or however many topics that you want to focus on, we can create a schedule and then say, okay, you need to have this to us. You have to give us a few days to get something out. But yeah, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great suggestion.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Almost, I mean, are you envisioning like a did you know kind of snippet, Jeremy, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Is there's so many just interesting, like some, like I'm looking through the report earlier today, and I'm like, oh, this is such a great image of that people would love to see. And I think maybe it gets buried for a lot of people. So pulling out some of those graphs, some of those like, did you knows about this department? There's so many like fascinating little snippets, and I think if we can pull those out of those sections that interest us, like I think the community, we are the community, so they'll be interested too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
I might
So
come
that's a
in
few.
just
That's
a
a
little bit.
challenge to distill all of this information into a 30-second soundbite.
Well, I think if we did a 30-second soundbite about schools, a 30-second soundbite about CWMP, like, I mean, it's maybe we'll narrow it down to a collective 3-minute soundbites. But yeah, I think that's the challenge of how do you do it. But I think it's a fun challenge.
But the
You
thing
know,
is,
one thing you
having,
might, well, I was just going to say, one thing you might think about is most people are interested in something that they have an impact on. And if you're always talking after the fact, if you're summarizing something that's already happened, maybe I would think if you could try to pull out ways for people to engage, because I think people are really uncomfortable with finances. All they know is they pay their taxes, and then they hear the school gets a lot of them. I mean, I'm just breaking it down, but that's as simple as most people know. I pay my taxes, and the schools get a lot, and I don't have kids in school, so I don't like that. So, stuff like that would, if people can't engage and grab in something and comment, I mean, that's why that meeting at 6 Points, because people were really angry. And so they came and they felt they had a chance to engage. If you're just reciting stuff that's just like, oh, this happened. Oh, well, I guess I missed that. That'd be my point, to think of it that way. Is there any way people could get excited about this other than I pay my taxes?
That's a really good point you make there, because the Great Roads meeting, people were really engaged in it. I mean, they were eager to express themselves. But you're right. Finances after the fact are not necessarily fascinating issues.
I'm going to leave it to Jeremy to come up with the topics, and we'll work with you, Jeremy.
Well, just let me just say one thing about finance, Lillian. Remember who brought the residential exemption to this town? It wasn't the town council. They were against it. It was the residents. They put together a citizens petition, and they came to the town council, and the town council didn't want to look like they weren't supporting the residents. So they voted, yeah, let's put this out for a vote. And then it was voted in overwhelmingly. The town
Yeah.
didn't do that. That was the residents learning about something. So that's something that they could help themselves with. So they will engage when they understand they have a way to engage. So it's up to you guys who know this stuff inside and out to think, how would we want these guys to engage? That would be my takeaway, knowing where the residential exemption came from. Didn't come from the town. Absolutely not. Came from the people.
And that was the same time that they were also asking for a split tax rate. And we know that because we have fire districts that are, again, they don't have Prop 2.5 or anything else. And so the split tax rate in the village of Hyannis does not work. When you consider that the commercial, industrial, and property tax base is 11%, versus the 89%. And I don't know, Gareth, those were the numbers when I was running the Hyannis Area Chamber, so they may have changed since then. But everything that we were told was that a split tax rate works when it's 30% and higher for the CIP, not when it's putting so much pressure on such a small amount of taxpayers. So our commercial base would have had a huge hit had the town gone to a split tax rate. And that was, and I know that in November or early December is when those numbers go to the council every year, the factor of one, the residential renewal of the residential exemption and stuff like that. And so maybe we need a primer for that prior to it going before the council. That may be something that would make a lot of sense for you folks to work on.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up. Lynn, that's an amazing idea because that's very timely. It gets these guys out of the gate, engaging with the community, and it gets them on a topic where they can advocate for themselves. I love it. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Bye.
One other topic that the residents got involved in, if I may, was the CWMP. The CWMP that the town was bringing forth was a 60-year plan. It was the residents that came forward and pushed for something shorter than 60 years, and that's where the 30-year three-phase plan was born. So when the residents do get involved, things do change.
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Ward. And I remember meeting with a lot of you folks with Wequaquet Lake and other areas when it came time to the assessment for sewer connections and things of that nature.
That topic is coming back because the residents are,
Right.
they were told that they would be, Lake Wequaquet was the #1 priority of the town in 2005. It is somehow slid behind Route 28 development. So the residents are coming back shortly, I think.
Yeah, I think that's great if we can do timely things like that. The split tax rate issue, I think definitely we should do something on that ahead of that vote by town council for the residential exemption. So I guess that maybe can be our first, snippet if you want to work on that, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay.
Chris King is here. Is the other area that was made apparent to me when I was doing my section of the report is the amount of tax that is levied for the fire districts versus the general tax rate that just comparing I think it's $44 million for the fire districts in total versus 19 million for the Barnstable police. And it just seems to be a little, not fair, not quite balanced properly. And that might be an area that we highlight also. I know it's a very sticky wicket for the fire department. None of us want our houses to burn down, of course, but none of us want to have slow response from police either.
Yeah, I think the fire districts, a lot of people are confused about how that works anyway. So that's certainly something we can put out there as well.
Mhm.
And I think we need to be careful though not to advocate for anything. Just we're putting information out there
Exactly.
to bring people in so they can become aware of what's going on. And then they can advocate for what they want.
And that's why it's important to have a staff member with a committee member when talking about these things. The fire districts, as I mentioned earlier, they're not subject to Prop 2.5. They have their own annual meetings where they do things, and I don't see that changing. And I'm actually kind of shocked, Mr. King, at those numbers because I was not aware that it's 44 million that's going to the 5 fire districts and only 19 million to the police department. That's a shock.
It was a shock to me also. Thank you.
I want to thank Betty because you put your finger on the exact key of what we should emphasize. And what you're saying is that the interest of the residents is most keen when it's a pocketbook issue. Other things are possibly philosophical and theoretical, but when they coming after your pocketbook, then you get really interested in it. So thank you for underscoring that really important point for us.
And we have, I'll echo that as well. And we have two very important issues right now that we should be considering more work on, which is the CWMP funding model. Right, that's something that we need to put that in stone and should be a topic. You want to talk about, pocketbook programs. That clearly is one that's a very much concern for everyone in the town. And the other would be a school funding with respects to its capital plan. And so those are two items that are right on the tip of every committee member, certainly town council and residents and school committee, that I think might be something we want to get out in front of. And it's part of what we do on a normal basis, right? So you take what we do well at and just advocate or provide additional information through social media or other programs to make town residents aware of what's going on.
Yeah, that's really a good good point, Jim. Both funding of the CWMP and the new school buildings over the next couple of decades are going to require careful financial planning, and one of the options will be the debt exclusion referendum. So citizens need to be aware of it and to become more informed about the progress of each of these um, building projects.
And I
You
know
know,
that I was just going to say that town staff's hands are tied with some of that, as it has to do with future referendums and stuff of that nature. So we'll have to talk about how we'll have to discuss with legal how we can go get word out with that. And I will say that with some of these things, if you have somebody that actually has a budget, like the DPW has a budget for the CWMP, and when we were first going out for things, we had those assessment, and this was during COVID as well, but we had assessment webinars where people had an opportunity to ask questions. We ran them 6 times at different times during the day, understanding that people's schedules vary. We actually sent a postcard out, and we sent it out to all of the property owners in town, because they were the ones who were going to get affected with a tax. It was going to affect their taxes. And we also learned during that postcard send out that the town of Barnstable owns an awful lot of property in the town of Barnstable, and that we need to eliminate those mailing lists in the future, so that we're actually going for other people. The other thing that we found out was that there's a lot of people who own property in the town of Barnstable who live overseas and out of state. But we needed to reach out to them as well. We were able to use the bulk mail thing, but we did it in such a way that we would get the returns, because usually when you send something out in a bulk rate, you don't get the returns. You don't know who hasn't received it. So we were trying to work that up, but that list is 5 years old, so it's already outdated. So we would have to go with a new list, but we were able to use the funds from the DPW for the CWMP. So if there's something that you folks have that would involve that, I would suggest working with DPW to see if they have money that they can share.
thank you.
Anything else anyone wants to bring up on this subject?
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope that if you have any additional questions or suggestions that you share them. Jeremy, I look forward to hearing from you in the near future.
Sounds
And
good. Looking forward to it.
hopefully we'll get something on the books definitely before November town council meetings to talk about some of those other things, so that they're in a timely fashion.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming. Something at some point, like I say, probably when this report is finalized. And and that possibility of directly emailing out the reports that Tom had mentioned, if that's something we can do. Yeah.
I'll double check. Last time it was not possible, but I'll see if whether or not anything's changed. So,
Okay, great.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you,
Thank
Lynn.
you, Lynn.
thank you. Have a good evening.
You.
You as well. Okay, on to our second topic is discussion of our financial overview report for fiscal 26. So I want to say first, thank you to everyone for all of your work on your sections, and thank you to Tom specifically for compiling it all. I hope everyone had a chance to look it over. I don't know if Gareth can bring it up on screen for us.
Did you have a revised copy? I don't know that I was CC'd on that.
I might have just sent it to Mark. I don't know if I sent it to you, honestly. Let me see.
So I think when I tried to respond to one of Mark's emails and CC Gareth, my CC went to your personal email and it bounced back. So
Did you possibly find that?
maybe somebody Mark or even Chris mixed up your personal email with your town email.
Yeah, let me yeah, I did just send it to Mark here, so I apologize for that. Let me see if I can
Does
send it to you right now.
Tom have a copy of it?
Well, I think he's sending it right now. I think Chris is sending it right now.
Yeah.
I did just forward it to you, Gareth, so.
Okay, I'll
So, Chris, while we're doing that, just some thoughts. The report right now is about 24 pages long. And I think we have been talking about trying to do something that was more in line of 12 to 14 pages.
Yep.
When I compiled this, I did some very, very light editing, but I really did not try to do anything in terms of making all the language the same, making a similar format, trying to reduce down to essential points and things like that. And I wonder if it might be sensible to try to actually do that kind of exercise. Not sure you can do it in a meeting like this, but to really try to bring it down significantly in size and sort of get the same shape of language and the like.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be trimmed down. And I think that with a few of the sections, even the one that I did on the government structure, bringing it to a single page instead of spilling onto a second page. And then I think there is kind of a preponderance of charts and graphs in some of the sections, a little too much, in my opinion. So yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks. Do we want to have Tom or someone else try to pare it down
I
some
was
before we?
volunteering Hector. I thought that
I was going to say, Tom, that you're the editor extraordinaire and the parer down extraordinaire.
yeah. Now
I
I would be happy to do something along that line.
Yeah, and I'm
And it's-
happy for you to. I submitted the fire district section and then the last page, which
Mhm.
included looking at. I'm happy for you to boil that down if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And I don't know how.
I think that's what I can do.
Yeah,
Uh, really start
It's
trying to
now.
bring it down in size. And a lot of that is it's just trying to understand the essential points that are in there and reduce it without, on my part, making a mistake and eliminating something that should have been in there. So,
So, Tom, how
I
many
think what I would,
words? What's the total word count that you currently have? Do you know what it is?
the total what?
Word count
5153.
515.
and what was the 12-page word count in last year's?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
I'm just looking online.
It actually doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Well, it
No, it
does
doesn't.
because we're trying to fit everything into the 12 pages.
Yeah.
Well,
info.
what we're,
Last year, last year, Tom, the total word count in the Word version of the CFAC overview was 4674,
And how many pages was that?
12, but smaller font and so
Oh,
forth and
Lots
so on,
more
right?
graph.
right. Well, so, and that's certainly a way to do it. And,
Well,
I, I,
that
I
being
do
said,
remember when I was in school and was asked to give 20 pages as a report, I would use 18-point font.
that's right. But that being said,
That's the reverse.
that word
Yeah,
count isn't as different
and
as I would
very wide
expect for
margins.
twice the pages.
Very wide margins.
I see your hand up, Betty. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys a question. Are you writing this like it's a piece of paper? I think you ought to come into the electronic age if you are and link things and have it be very summarized and then link. I don't think that it should be written as if it's a paper document that's going to sit on a coffee table. That's
Yeah,
just my
so we do
impression.
it as a paper document and a digital. It's always printed as well as available online, which we've
But
discussed, changing that potentially.
yeah, I just wonder why you're doing that in 2025.
Well, I
Just
think it has, proven to be popular even in print. We do distribute it throughout the town, and it does get read. I've personally seen people reading it at town hall.
yeah.
Um, so it does get distributed and read in physical format as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sympathetic to your argument, Betty, because I think I may have voiced that myself.
It
But I've been persuaded that at least some people really still do prefer to have a printed version. Um, and of course, the problem with links in a printed version is that they become very difficult for people to use. You could use QR codes, and maybe I could certainly do something like that.
Yeah,
I can.
you're really limiting your capacity to innovate. And I'll just say from my job as an airline pilot, where I used to walk around carrying a bookcase that weighed, I don't know, 40 pounds full of every chart everywhere. And before I retired, I was carrying an iPad. I just think it's time. I don't know who these people are, but maybe these people need to take a leap forward.
Yeah,
Just a notion. I
There's-
mean, that might be part of your message, you know?
There is a middle ground, and one of the we did talk a little bit about this 2 weeks ago, which is having an executive summary or a document that precedes the full document. And Hector had asked that we look at other towns and what other towns do, and I did find several communities have um, an executive summary, and actually it's called a popular annual financial report, in which on 4 pages they summarize down, what's similar to our 320-page financial report. So to Betty's point, you could do two documents, one that gets electronically published as part of our social media or online campaign that links to the full report if people want to know more. And so I just would like to advocate for considering something like that. And it wouldn't really even have to be done it could be done for the first year after the fact. We could complete our report and then publish a 4-page summary document with.
yeah. Jim Sproles sent me several examples of a public annual financial report, PAFR. And one that I found very appealing was the town of Arlington, Massachusetts, which, as Jim said, it's a 4-page snapshot. Jim, did you circulate that to others on the?
I did not know. No.
Yeah. But that was, it's about half text and half charts, and it's Town of Arlington Public Annual Financial Report, fiscal year ended June 2023. And
Would you
Tom,
mind?
when
would-
you're looking at condensing ours, you might take a look at that, what the Town of Arlington did. I thought it was really excellent.
Would you mind
I'm
sharing
looking at
that?
it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, to the team, Jim,
Yeah,
or at least a link to Arlington. We can all just get online and look at it.
actually, I don't know if it's too small to see. I could share.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. And it's got pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got a little bit of everything. So with Chris, with your permission, I'll just send out that link to everybody.
Yeah,
But it's,
send it to the committee so we can
yeah,
all take a look at it. I think I'm open to the idea of doing that. I don't know if we should follow through on our traditional document right now and then
yep,
perhaps maybe a subcommittee
that's what
put
I'm
together
suggesting.
this 4-page summary and see how that comes out after the fact.
Right.
And
That's
then
what I'm
next year we can decide, which one worked better.
So I let me take a crack at trying to reduce this down to 12 pages and then simultaneously circulate something that would be a true executive summary, create that separately. So I actually kind of feel this is feasible to do with the information we have in here.
Yeah.
Chris, couldn't we
Yeah,
work
no, it
from,
certainly can be done. And certainly we can bring down the current report back to 12
Yeah.
pages. It's never been
Yes.
a problem in the past.
Yeah. Tom, will you be boiling it down to 12 pages or to the number of words or fewer than we had last year, which were made to fit onto the 12
Right.
pages?
Yeah, I'm looking. I will probably, I'm using 12-point type right here, to a 12-point font right here.
Right.
As I'll probably bring that down to 11. So that certainly will reduce some pages, but
Yeah.
I'm going to have to cut the words. And I look through it. I do think that there's a lot that can be expressed more quickly.
Yeah. I agree.
Chris,
I,
couldn't we
I
just
could
work?
take a crack at it and circulate something back to Chris, and then at our next meeting, which is what, 2 weeks from now, Chris,
Yeah.
we could have something that I hope might be close to final.
Okay. Frank,
You,
did you have some
you,
input?
you can get to 12 pages by working from a table of contents and saying each section can have X number of pages. You could do fire on one page. You could do enterprise on one page.
Yeah.
Yeah. All of these should be 1 or 2 pages max,
And
every section.
given people say that they still like to print it, we should consider that when some people print it, and I know some of those people, their complaint is it drains their color printer. Right?
If they have
you
a
print
color
that
printer.
first page of the people shucking or going clamming, and I've got 3 old guys at a meeting saying they drained my color printer just printing the title page. So just something to consider. Those that like to print it don't want to drain their printer.
Well, the thing is,
Black
there's
and
print
white.
copies available. No one has to even print it
Well,
at home. They
Right.
can get a copy at town hall. There's still copies in town hall right now.
Yeah, I take Frank's point though. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people will get a document electronically and print it so they can read it,
Yeah.
and it's got all black in it, or
including
all
close
colors.
friends. And quite frankly, there's no reason to overwhelm the color printer here. You can do some shading with grays and things like that. I'm
Yeah.
not even sure that the picture on the first page is really worth the page count, quite frankly.
It's a pretty picture for sure, but
Great picture.
yeah.
But the people are looking for financial information. Milne is the most watched person on television. There's a thirst for the information, and is the thirst to get it on one page, so that if they want to go to a fire meeting, they can see all the fire departments, residents served, and how much they spend, how many firemen they have. People would love that information. Same thing for all the enterprise funds. Those people that are interested in those 9 funds, put it all on one page, a trend analysis of what they spend and how many people they have. You will get the people to engage if they can carry one page to a meeting. That's what they're looking for based on what I'm hearing.
One page.
You can carry the fire department in on one page. You don't need a map. You list them. You tell them how many
Yeah.
fire agents, people they have, and you say, how many people do they serve?
Right.
Same thing with schools. You can get to schools. How many students do we have? And do we really spend 27,000 per student? That's what we really spend. That's what they want to know.
Mhm.
When you take the section that we have in the draft on the schools, and you divide the number with the benefits allocated by the 4,669 students, it's I think 26,600 per student. People would love to know that number. They can't find it in the 538 pages of the budget. Just my thoughts from what I hear.
No, you make a good point. I mean, the whole purpose of this document is to summarize the highlights of the budget in a concise manner. So, and
And to
the
make it,
picture on the front, whatever. I mean, you can do whatever you want with how it's designed.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you want to, take a crack at changing how it's set up, Tom, and send that out for us to review for the next meeting.
If that's something that's acceptable to the committee, I'll be happy to try.
I'm fully in support, Tom.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom, for trying.
I'd like to pick
Jeremy,
up
do you have any
on
thoughts?
I mean, I think it's essential. I think we would sit here for hours saying like, if we're collectively going to try to cut this down ourselves. I mean,
No,
it's we know that it would, and I think having Tom take a crack at it is in the best interest of us as a committee.
yeah,
And so yeah, I'm in full support.
yeah.
Okay.
what I did was I sent to Tom and Chris some suggestions to tighten up the report. I like Frank's idea of the bullet data. So what I did as a suggestion was I redid Frank's overview, and it all fits in one page. The text is the text is minimal, and it all comes in on one page. And I went through every piece of every report, and here are some of the things that we could do. We could get rid of the pie charts.
I vote for that.
Yeah, we could get rid of the pie charts because they suck up a lot of space, and we can shrink the font size. For my CWMP section, which lists all of the projects, you can shrink the font size on that one too. And for, let's see, actually, I made a lot of notes on all this stuff.
Maybe pass those notes on to Tom, Lillian.
Yes, Tom actually has my notes.
I do have those, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I have a lot of notes on the looking ahead section.
Mhm.
Which basically the draft is the one that we had last year. So what I did was to update it because of the changes, and I included some of the CIP and OB looking ahead portions from their reports this year, because it's a good reflection of what CFAC does. So anyway, Tom has it, and if you could incorporate that in there, that would be great.
Okay, so at this point, we'll see what Tom comes up with. We can take a look at that for the next meeting and go from there. Hopefully, we'll be close to a final version. And then, like I said, we can explore the possibility of, a tighter 4-page document after the fact as well. And then next year, we'll be in a better position to say, well, do we want to do the 12-page document or do we want to do something more concise? Because I think it's tough midstream to decide to totally change it,
Right.
So anyway, if everyone's good with that, then I guess that'll be the plan.
I could add on to what Lillian,
I have,
like
I
Gerard.
have, I have one more question about the capital improvement portion that Jeremy did. Maybe we don't need the highest rated and the lowest rated proposals.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
where I was going.
that's all fun and all that, but there's a lot of stuff in here that can condense. So if you need any help with the editing, I'm really good at that one.
Give the highlights of what's in the 140 million, not what was left out. There are a couple of numbers that I can see. It says 141.5 million. There's another document that says it's only 100. But of that, we're only listing less than 10 million in our top 5. Give the people, tell them how much it is and tell them what's in it. And then do we agree? We must have agreed on it, right? When we went through the budget. You want to know how much and what it is.
Well, I guess that's the challenge, is if you're trying to condense it, it's a long list of items. But I also think the challenge, which we have as a community, is there's things we're not funding, but we still own that are assets. And that also needs to be talked about. Of like, you might not want to have a Hearst building, but we have a Hearst building. And I'll say, in that meeting when it was discussed among the department heads, I mean, there's a lot of scorn for some of these assets, which is a conversation that needs to happen of like, well, if we don't want to fund this, what do we do with it? So I agree. Like, it's clunky, it's big, but I guess the challenge is, how do you talk about the stories without taking
perfect use of a link. You could have a link on those. If you want to know about the 452, click this link. It'll give you all the detail you want. If you want to know what was left out, click to that link.
Exactly. It's the limitation. Yeah, the limitation of a paper document. Like, the link is clearly essential for things like that, where you can't put it in there, but people still want to pursue that little curiosity.
An easy link. Yeah, that works.
All right. So I think that's good for the moment. If you want to do a separate report on that Hearst building, you can feel free, Jeremy.
Like, it is
item for
wild.
YouTube.
It's wild that we have that as a town, and you sit there, and in the meeting, like, everyone, it's the running joke in those meetings of, we know this is going to get brought up, and we know no one is going to fund it.
Yep. No, there's a lot of stuff like that, and you're right. It is an important conversation, but not for this document.
Yeah.
So.
Chris, could we agree on the formats to all be in millions, or versus some in thousands and some in dollars, or also, can we have fully allocated costs and not have, like the school number? I forget who wrote it, but the 93 becomes 124 when you put the allocations.
Yeah, I put that in.
Yeah, everything needs to be consistent
and
for
if
sure.
Unfortunately, this is a matter of history. I've raised it. I think several have raised it before, but this is the way it's been out through CFAC before. Would it make sense next year for us to start doing fully allocated, including employee benefits and insurance and things like that? Yes, I think it would. But at this point, we're really trying to summarize our report on the FY26 budget, which you've already been through. I don't think I even have those data in that way at this point. But I agree with you on a going forward basis.
I'm fairly certain Gareth has all that information in a pretty summarized form where you can see the fully allocated. And that's what this fixed cost thing in employee benefits, it appears that we're hiding them as a town, and we're not trying to hide them. They're just on page 422.
Well, I think we should look at that, moving operating budget and CIP, where it's put out. I think Tom was just saying that it's kind of the way it's always been summarized. So
No,
to
not
keep it
really.
consistent.
We actually used to break out all of the pensions and retirement and by department, but then we consolidated under fixed costs. And if
Yeah,
I remember correctly, what Mark said is that if you take the school fixed costs, then it becomes something like 80% of our budget.
But it is.
No, we know it is.
And it's $26,000 per student.
No, it's all I'm saying is that for the moment, we're not going to do that because it'll confuse everybody.
Maybe it'll
I think
clarify
that
things for people.
It will get them involved because they don't even know how to ask a question about fixed costs. They're afraid of the term. I believe that anyway.
yeah, it's a fair point. I think though, like I said, that's something to do moving forward, for the upcoming reports. I mean, I don't know if everyone feels differently, then please express that. But I
Well,
look at this document as kind of summarizing what we already hear.
Chris,
yeah.
I would argue that there's actually the reason we used to allocate it, and then as I understand it, we then went back and did not allocate it. And I believe that there are arguments on both sides for why you should do it. And I think that's worth a separate discussion when we start looking at the FY27 budget and how we're going to approach that.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean
for the
that's
time
my
being,
thought is,
for the
for
time
fiscal
being, our
27. Yeah.
report to the town council did not allocate those costs back. This is supposed to be essentially just a summary of that report. And I think it becomes very difficult on all of our parts to start trying to do something that is not the way we've been doing it for the last few years.
I
But again,
agree.
I'd like to have
Yeah.
the debate going forward.
Yeah, I think that's right. I would, I agree with Lillian and Tom that we should stick with what we've got. But think about this issue and maybe think about the allocating the so-called fixed costs when we do our short YouTube videos or other social media presentations.
I'd like to ask Gareth the question because Gareth used to be in charge of the school budget. And so he goes back a long way, back when we had allocated all of the fixed costs to schools and when we shifted it all to fixed costs. Gareth, tell us how this works.
I'm thinking back to when I started with the town. We were allocating out all of the health insurance benefits to individual departments.
Right.
You would be in a position where the savings for those potential any vacancy savings that you had within a department, including health insurance, in the case of the school district, would stay in the school budget and wouldn't be available for other departments, which was okay if you're running a department that has 500 odd employees. You can pretty much guarantee that in the course of a year, you're going to have some people that drop off, some that come on board, and you're going to break even. Where allocating the costs to the specific departments fell down is when you started to get to a department, say, like our procurement department, which is 3 people. Well, a person coming on board mid-year takes on a master health or a PPO plan under a family plan. It could be a $10,000 swing in the budget, which that department couldn't cover. So then it was a case of we would have to go to the town council and look to transfer funds from another department, which ruins their spending plans of how they were allocating their funds. So after analysis, it just seemed like it was easier to centralize the health insurance costs into one central location within the town budget, which happened to be the fixed cost category. And we moved all municipal and school health insurance lines to that cost center.
Right. Right. If I could add to that too,
management wise and accounting speaking, it's a lot easier for us to manage it. We have a better pulse on it. It just gets more complicated with looking at transfers at year ends to close any deficits or shortfalls that there might be.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, one of the complicated things is that not every employee takes health insurance, right?
Bingo.
Right. Exactly.
So that's why, that's the other argument for centralizing it. I mean, I've seen it done both ways. And there's arguments both ways, but in a small department, you may hire someone whose spouse has health insurance, and so that person doesn't need the health insurance in the town. And boom, all of a sudden it looks like you have a much cheaper person, and then you hire a replacement, and it's like, oh, that's much more, $10,000 more. And so I mean, I get the arguments on both sides.
I think
Well-
that's why we do that cost exercise in our budget summary document where we do allocate out those costs. But as far as day-to-day operations and the way we have the budget approved and the way we develop the budget, I certainly wouldn't want to go back to a decentralized allocating formula.
Can we change to Frank's point, can we change the term fixed costs to employee benefits?
Well, it's insurance too.
I'm not asking you to change the departmental structure of the town.
No.
You can have your accounting records
It's just
intact and have a management report that spreads it very easily at a high level, not for every department, but you could certainly put it to schools, you can put it to police, you can put it to DPW. You can do it at a high level because you're capturing the number at a departmental level. You know what every department healthcare really actually is. You have it by employee, and they're all assigned to a department.
Well, for the purposes of your report, you could also just allocate it out on an FTE basis. It might not necessarily needs to match the individual employee who's taking insurance, but you could base it on a FTE count of that department.
Great idea, Gareth. Great idea.
That's good. Yeah.
Well, I can tell we'll be talking about this some more in the future.
Gives the taxpayer what they're looking for. Right now, they are afraid of, it's a huge number, fixed cost, and it implies you can't do anything about it, but you can. Everything's negotiated in that.
Well, you could call them unallocated costs if you want, then, Frank. I mean, yes, nothing's fixed, and in fact, healthcare costs rise every year, so they're clearly not fixed.
Right.
Debt service maybe is fixed, but that's about it.
And the post-employment employee benefits are going up also, and that's part of our fixed costs. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
and they
it
all
may be
pertain
that
to
the word
one.
fixed is completely wrong there, but
Yeah.
We're underestimating or telling the public the value of every employee. The bulk of the costs are people, and those people have a 30% benefit cost, and they have a large percentage post-retirement cost that's not being factored in, or not being shown to the taxpayer or to the town council, unless they can find it on page 422 or whatever it is, or page 50 of the summary.
Let's have a contest for somebody to come up with a term other than the fixed costs for this pot of money.
how about unallocated?
Oh, I think that's that
Well,
still has
we call it
still
other
Greek
requirements
to
in
the
the
average
budget.
person, right?
I've played all those.
Well, these are
Oh.
fixed costs because we have to pay for them before we can fund municipal operations and schools.
Particularly
No
retired.
publicly held company would do this.
This is the most important category.
No question,
why it's important
but
to
is
see
the
it by
label
you.
the right one? Go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
That's why it's so important to push it back to where it belongs. We're missing, what would the number go in schools from 93 to 124? That's 1/3 increase. And it's not even showing up on the same page. So when you take the 124.5 million and divide by the number of students, we're spending $26,600 per student. And people should know that. Jeremy doesn't know that he's spending that on the students that he's teaching. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's a change, I know. Maybe I'm trying to force feed too much change at once.
No,
I'll mute myself and sit back for a while.
No,
I think
it's an
it's good.
important discussion. I just wonder,
Yeah.
for the purposes of this report, if
Right.
that's what we're doing, or for fiscal 27, when we start with those reports, should we change the way we structure it? It's a fair point for sure. That should be clarified.
Yeah. And I think the history that Gareth provided is valuable, and it would be valuable to have Mark be part of this discussion as well.
That's
But yeah,
correct.
Chris, I think you're right. We should focus on the art of the possible for this report because we got to get this out within the next 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, I think practically speaking, that's the best course. So
Tom,
anyway,
if you need
any
help to consolidate and edit, please let me know. I'll be happy to help.
Thank you very much, Lillian.
any additional discussion on the report? Hearing none, we'll move on from that. Any correspondence from committee members?
I have one question for Gareth on the strategic plan meeting this week. Do we know what issues will be included in that?
To be honest with you, I'm not fully briefed on the strategic plan meeting itself. I think perhaps Betty might be more apt to give insight to that if I could.
Yeah, Lillian, they asked us for some inputs. For example, things we thought that were positive about the town, things that we thought were negative, challenges over the next 1 to 3 years, opportunities for the next 1 to 3 years. The agenda, I thought I saw just going from memory. It had some team building exercises and then some discussions. I think it's from like 6 to 9 or something, a 3-hour
Right.
exercise. I mean, I could, dig out the agenda that I've been given and send it to Chris if you, because I've always said you guys are critical in any, no strategy works unless you understand your constraints, and money is right up there.
I was just wondering whether there would be any discussion about a fiscal policy.
I certainly think there should be, but I don't know. I think it's going to be up to each one of us to say what we think some of the focus areas might be going forward.
Yeah.
Is that agenda posted on the town website, Betty?
Negative. It was sent to me. As I say, I can send it to Chris and maybe he could send it out to you guys if you want to see what I have. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, please do. I'd be happy to send it out.
All right.
Thank you. That would be great because the agenda on the town website is very general.
Well, what does it say? Does it talk about that team building and other stuff?
Yeah, so there's the team building and what's negative and that
Yeah,
sort
then I think that's what I have, but I haven't looked, frankly, what's on the town website, so I can check against what I have, and if mine is something different, I can send it to Chris.
Thank you.
All righty.
Great. Any other communications from staff at all, Gareth or Betty?
Yeah, just on that note, I believe it hasn't been finalized yet, but there was talk that financial policy might be on the a financial policy overview by Mark and myself, maybe on the next town council meeting on the 18th. But again, I know that agenda hasn't been set at this point, but there was discussion. As far as the FY27 budget goes, the town manager is about to issue his instructions to departments, which will include the budget action calendar. At this point, we're recommending a slightly accelerated CIP process this year in order to address some concerns from the school department so that they can access the next year's CIPs slightly earlier so that they can do some planning for the summer. So we're trying to advance the CIP by about a month. We will hopefully have 2 to 3 meetings between the capital budget and the operating budget. So at this point, it hasn't been approved yet. A tentative schedule would look at December 2nd for the CIP task force meeting. So I know in the typical years, the CFAC group have sent representatives to that. So if you'd like to put that in your calendar as a tentative date, we'll confirm that when the time gets closer.
Okay.
We'll be looking to, the town manager will be looking to submit to the town council around February 20th for a CIP budget. CFAC, I have penciled in your report on the CIPs like you've done in previous years, would be submitted on March 3rd. And then the public hearings would start. 2 public hearings at this point seems to be how we get through the CIP process, on March 19th and April 2nd.
Okay.
Do you have
Again,
do you have any tentative schedules on the operating budget yet?
I do. I don't have them in front of me. It essentially, the operating budget we didn't accelerate to the same level, so it's going to mirror around about the same dates as the FY26 budget. But I should have this finalized probably tomorrow or the next day, so I can forward it to everyone.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gareth. Anything else from town council, Betty?
Nope, nothing else. Nope, not right now.
All right, excellent. So I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Jeremy, can you call the roll?
Certainly. Hector Gunther,
yes.
Tom Keene,
Yes.
Chris King,
Yes.
Chris Lauzon,
Yes.
Jim Sproul,
Yes.
Frank Ward,
Yes.
Lillian Wu,
Yes.
and I am a yes.
Right.
It's unanimous. All right. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Thank
Thanks,
you
everyone.
all.
Have a good night.
Thanks, folks.